Your mother died because of me. My mother-in-law said this at her 60th birthday gala. She said it with champagne in one hand. She said it with 200 people watching. She said it like she was giving a toast. I mean, not directly, Constance continued. She was smiling. The smile of a woman who has rehearsed cruelty until it looks like charm. But when her cleaning company lost that foundation contract, she shrugged. Well, stress kills, doesn't it? The room got quiet. 200 people and not one of them breathed. I was standing 6 feet away, holding a glass of wine I suddenly couldn't taste, wearing a dress I'd borrowed from my sister. At a country club I wasn't allowed to join. My mother died 14 months ago. Heart attack at 57. She was cleaning the bathroom of a woman who never learned her name. She collapsed between the toilet and the tub. The homeowner found her 2 hours later, called an ambulance, then called her service to request a replacement. That same day, she requested a replacement the same day my mother died on her floor. I didn't know until this moment that Constance had anything to do with it. I didn't know until this moment that my mother's company lost a contract. A foundation contract? The Harrington Family Foundation. Constance's foundation. You should have seen her face when I canceled, Constance said. She was telling the story to the woman beside her, but she was looking at me. She actually cried. A grown woman? Over a cleaning contract. She laughed. I told her, this is business. Don't take it personally. That contract was worth $42,000 a year. It was my mother's biggest client. She'd held it for 11 years. She lost it 3 weeks before she died. 3 weeks. My mother worked herself to death trying to replace it. 14-hour days, 7 days a week, taking on small jobs that paid nothing, scrubbing floors at midnight because she couldn't say no. And Constance canceled the contract because I married her son, because she didn't want the help in her family, because my hands looked too much like my mother's hands. Rough, calloused, wrong. I brought you something, dear. Constance was holding out a gift bag, pink tissue paper, silver handles. She held it out to me in front of everyone. Go on, she said. Open it. Inside was a cleaning uniform. Gray cotton, short sleeves, a name tag sewn onto the breast pocket. It said, staff. Since you grew up cleaning houses, she said, this should feel natural. I looked at the uniform. I looked at the name tag. I looked at this woman who killed my mother as casually as canceling lunch. I folded the uniform neatly. I placed it back in the gift bag. Then I opened my purse. I brought you something too, Constance. I pulled out an envelope. Inside was a 47-page forensic accounting report. It covered 8 years of the Harrington Family Foundation. The foundation Constance chaired. The foundation she used to remind everyone she was a philanthropist. The report showed that Constance had stolen $340,000, redirected from the foundation into 3 personal accounts, including the account she used to pay for this gala. But that wasn't the part that mattered. Page 37. That was the part that mattered. Page 37 showed that Constance canceled my mother's contract illegally. The foundation had a 3-year commitment. My mother was owed 18 months of payments, $73,000, money that could have kept her alive, money that Constance pocketed instead. I held the envelope out to her. Same distance, same smile. Open it, I said. She didn't. She just stared at the envelope. What is this? She asked. Your birthday present. I paused. And my mother's invoice. With interest. The foundation board chair stood up. He was looking at the envelope. He was looking at Constance. He was doing the math in his head. And I think Constance finally understood something. The daughter of the cleaning lady she killed could read a ledger. The girl she called staff had been going through her books for 18 months. The girl she humiliated at a gala was about to return the favor. With compound interest, I should tell you how I got here. How the daughter of a cleaning lady ended up holding evidence at a country club. It starts with a mop. My mother's name is Rosa. She came to this country with $11 and a suitcase held together with packing tape. She didn't speak English. She didn't know anyone. She had me 6 months later in a hospital where no one could pronounce her last name. They spelled it wrong on my birth certificate. She didn't correct them. She kept the misspelled certificate in a manila folder in the top drawer of her dresser, right next to her own papers, right next to a photograph of my grandmother that's so old, the edges are soft. She had bigger things to worry about. Like how to feed a baby when you don't have a job. Like how to find a job when you don't speak the language. Like how to speak the language when you're working 16 hours a day. Mom figured it out the way immigrant women always do. She cleaned houses. She started with 1 house, then 2, then 5. By the time I was in 1st grade, she had a route, Monday through Saturday. Big houses in nice neighborhoods where the lawns were green and the garages had 3 doors. She took me with her sometimes. Not because she wanted to, because she had to. Babysitters cost money. Money went to rent. Rent came first. Everything else came after. So I sat on the kitchen floors of other people's houses. I did my homework on other people's countertops. I ate my lunch at other people's tables. And I watched my mother work. She was fast. She was thorough. She could clean a 3,000 square foot house in under 4 hours. Most people couldn't do it in 6. She did it with a bad knee and a bucket she carried from room to room like a toolbox. She had a system, top to bottom, left to right, never backtrack. Start with the ceiling fans. End with the floors. Bathrooms before bedrooms. Kitchen last because kitchens always take longest. She could tell you which clients left dishes in the sink and which ones rinsed first. She could tell you which ones tipped at the holidays and which ones pretended to forget. She kept all of it in her head. A mental ledger of every house she ever cleaned. You waste time going backwards, she told me once. We were in a bathroom in a house on Elm Street. The house with the brass faucets and the soap that smelled like lavender. Always move forward. Even when you're scrubbing a toilet. I was 7 when she said that. I was sitting on the edge of the tub with a spelling workbook balanced on my knees. I didn't understand it then. I understand it now. She wasn't just talking about cleaning. She was talking about everything. Mom taught me a lot of things on those kitchen floors. She taught me to fold towels into perfect thirds. She taught me that the baseboards tell you everything about a house. If the baseboards are clean, the owner pays attention. If they're dusty, nobody's looking closely. And she taught me numbers. This is important. Every Friday, she'd sit at our kitchen table. The one with the wobbly leg she'd propped up with a folded napkin. She'd spread out her cash. All of it. And she'd count. She'd sort the bills by denomination. 1's here. 5's here. 10's here. 20's here. Then she'd count each pile twice. Then she'd write the total in a little notebook. A spiral notebook. Blue cover. She went through 2 a year. Always count twice, she said. People make mistakes. Numbers don't. She tracked every dollar, every tip, every extra 20 a client gave her at the holidays. She knew exactly how much she made every single week for 23 years. I know this because I have the notebooks. All 46 of them. They're in a box in my closet. Right next to a manila envelope I'll tell you about later. Mom put me through school with those dollars. Public school first. Then community college. Then a state university where I got a degree in accounting. Yeah, accounting. The cleaning lady's daughter got a degree in numbers. Mom cried at my graduation. She wore a dress she'd bought at a thrift store for $9. It was yellow. She looked beautiful. She kept touching my diploma like it might disappear. Like someone might walk over and say there was a mistake. Like good things don't happen to people like us. This is real? She asked. It's real, Mom. They can't take it back? No, Mom. It's mine. Yours, she repeated. She said it like she was tasting the word. Like she'd never said it about something this big. She held it to her chest. Right there, in the parking lot of the convention center. Cars honking. People walking by with balloons. My mother standing there in her $9 yellow dress, holding my diploma like a newborn. Like it was the most valuable thing she'd ever touched. And for her, it was... Because it wasn't just paper. It was proof. Proof that the years of kitchens and bathrooms and baseboards and buses had meant something. That every dollar she'd counted and every notebook she'd filled had added up to this. Her daughter holding a degree. In numbers, no less. The universe has a sense of humor. I got my first job at a small firm in the city. Nothing fancy. A desk. A computer. A boss named Gerald who ate tuna sandwiches at his desk and called everyone Chief. I was good at the work. Really good. Turns out, when your mother teaches you to count every dollar twice, forensic attention to detail comes naturally. I could spot a discrepancy the way Mom could spot a smudge on a window from across the room. Gerald noticed. "You've got an eye, Chief," he said. He was eating his tuna sandwich. There was mayonnaise on his tea, but he meant it. He started giving me the harder files. The ones that didn't add up on the first pass. The ones where the numbers said one thing and the client said another. I found things other people missed. Not because I was smarter. Because I was trained by a woman who could tell you the difference between a $19 tip and a $20 tip without looking at the bill. Attention to detail isn't a talent. It's a survival skill. You learn it when every dollar is the difference between groceries and going without. I worked there for 4 years. I got promoted twice. I was building a life. A small one. A studio apartment with a window that faced a wall. A car with 140,000 miles on it. A savings account that I checked every Friday. Just like Mom. Some habits are in the blood. But mine. Every piece of it. Earned. Counted. Mine. Then I met David. He was at a coffee shop. Not one of those fancy ones with oat milk and pour-overs. A regular one. Fluorescent lights. Burnt coffee. A muffin under a plastic dome that had been there since Tuesday. He was reading a book and his elbow was in a puddle of coffee and he didn't even notice. His hair was a little too long. His jacket was a little too wrinkled. He looked like the kind of person who forgets to eat lunch because he's thinking about something else. I liked that immediately. I pointed it out. "Your sleeve," I said. He looked down. "Oh." He looked at the stain. He looked at me. He smiled. Not a smooth smile, not a practiced one. The kind of smile that happens before the person decides to smile. "I'm David. You're also covered in coffee." He laughed. I liked his laugh. It was the kind of laugh that doesn't perform for anyone. It just escapes, like it's been waiting for permission to leave. We talked for an hour. Then 2. He told me about his work. He was an engineer. He designed bridges. Not the metaphorical kind. Actual bridges. Over actual water. I told him about accounting. He didn't glaze over. He asked questions. Real questions. Like he actually wanted to know what a balance sheet was. Nobody wants to know what a balance sheet is. But David did. Or at least he pretended to. And that was enough. Then the coffee shop closed and we stood in the parking lot for another 40 minutes. Our breath visible in the cold. Our hands in our pockets. Neither of us wanting to be the one who said goodnight first. He didn't ask what my parents did. He didn't ask where I was from. He didn't ask any of the questions that are really about figuring out how much money you have or what your last name sounds like. He asked me what book I was reading. Nobody had ever asked me that. Not on a first meeting. Not ever. I told him. He'd read it too. He disagreed with the ending. I disagreed with his disagreement. We argued about it in a parking lot for 20 minutes. It was the best argument I've ever had. We went on a date 3 days later. A restaurant with cloth napkins and candles on the table. He pulled out my chair. Not in a chauve way. In the way that says, I was raised right, even if I forget to check my sleeve for coffee. Then another date. Then another. Then I met his mother. And that's where the story stops being a love story and starts being a survival story. The first time I met Constance, she opened the front door and looked down. Not at me. At my shoes. She didn't look at my face for a full 3 seconds. I count everything. They were flats from a department store. Black. Simple. Comfortable for standing. Nothing wrong with them. Mom had helped me pick them out. Wear something nice but not too nice, she said. You don't want to look like you're trying too hard. Mom was right about the trying part. But it didn't matter. Because the shoes told Constance everything she needed to know. They told her I wasn't from her world. They told her I didn't have a closet full of shoes for every occasion. They told her that practical was the best I could do. Those are practical, she said. That was the first word she ever said about me. Not welcome. Not nice to meet you. Not David's told me so much about you. Practical. Like I was an appliance. Like I was a mop. Dinner that night was at her house. The country club house. The one with the circular driveway and the columns out front that looked like they were stolen from a courthouse. She had a cook named Margaret who'd been there 11 years. She had a housekeeper named Delia who came 3 times a week. She had a gardener whose name she never learned. She never learned any of their names on the first try. People who serve were furniture to Constance. Useful, replaceable, not worth remembering. And she had opinions about everything, about everyone, especially about the woman her son had decided to date. "So your mother," Constance said, cutting into her salmon. "What does she do?" I told her the truth. "She cleans houses." Constance didn't react. She just chewed. Slowly. Like she was processing the information the way a computer processes a file it doesn't recognize. Then she said, "How interesting." She didn't mean interesting. She meant beneath her. She meant poor. She meant different. She meant all the things she couldn't say out loud at a table with salmon and white wine and cloth napkins folded into little swans. But she said interesting because she was at a dinner table and people like Constance never say what they mean when there are witnesses. They say it between the lines, in the pauses, in the emphasis they put on certain words. Interesting. Practical. Different background. They save the real stuff for the hallway, the bathroom, the car ride home, the phone calls to friends where they say what they really think when the door is closed. That first dinner set the tone. And I'm not being dramatic. I know people say she didn't like me from the start, and sometimes that's just insecurity or reading too much into a first impression. This wasn't that. This was a woman who'd made a decision about me before I sat down. Before I opened my mouth. Before I picked up my fork or unfolded my napkin or said a single word about who I was or what I wanted or why her son made me laugh in a parking lot, she had already decided. And over the next 3 years, Constance made sure I knew exactly where she thought I belonged. She corrected my grammar at dinner. Every dinner. "It's David and I, dear, not me and David." She said it every single time. Even when I said it correctly. Once, I deliberately said David and I just to test her. She paused. She looked at her plate. She found something else to correct. "You're holding your fork the European way, dear. We hold it differently here." She was always finding something. Like she had a checklist of ways to remind me I didn't belong. Like she was training a dog she hadn't wanted and couldn't return. She asked me once at a brunch in front of 6 of her friends if my family had papers. I stared at her. "I was born in Wisconsin, Constance." "Oh, of course," she said. I just wasn't sure. She wasn't asking because she didn't know. She was asking because she wanted her friends to wonder. She wanted them to picture whatever story they wanted to picture. She wanted the question hanging in the air like smoke from a candle she'd blown out on purpose. Another time at a holiday dinner, she seated me at the far end of the table. Next to the children. David was at the other end. Next to her. "We ran out of room," she said. There were 2 empty chairs in the middle. I sat next to a 7-year-old named Tristan who spilled cranberry juice on my only nice blouse. I didn't complain. I just smiled and helped him wipe it up. Because that's what you do when you're the unwelcome guest. You make yourself useful. You make yourself small. You survive the dinner and cry in the car on the way home. David held my hand the whole drive back. He didn't know what to say. He never knew what to say. Because what do you say when your mother treats your wife like the help? There's no greeting card for that. Then there was the ethnic thing. She told her friend Barbara that David was dating an ethnic girl. Barbara told her daughter. Her daughter told David. David told me, "What does that even mean?" I asked. "I don't know," David said. He looked embarrassed. Like he'd been caught with something he didn't steal but couldn't explain. "I'll talk to her," he said. "Don't," I said. "It won't help." I was right. It wouldn't have helped. You can't argue someone out of a belief they didn't arrive at through logic. Constance didn't dislike me because of something I did. She disliked me because of something I was. Or something I wasn't. I wasn't from her world. I wasn't from her neighborhood. I wasn't from the kind of family that had country club memberships and columns on the porch. I was from the kind of family that cleaned those porches. And to Constance, that was a permanent condition. A stain that wouldn't come out no matter how hard you scrubbed. She'd know about scrubbing too. Except she'd never done it herself. She just paid other people to. People like my mother. And no amount of corrected grammar or nice shoes or degrees on a wall was going to fix that. Because you can't fix what someone else has decided is broken. David and I got married 2 years after that first coffee shop. He proposed on a Tuesday. Not a Saturday. Not a holiday. A regular Tuesday. We were making dinner. He was cutting onions. His eyes were watering. He put down the knife and said, "Marry me." I said, "Your eyes are leaking." He said, "Is that a yes?" It was a yes. It was always going to be a yes. Because he was the man who asked what book I was reading, who argued with me in a parking lot, who got coffee on his sleeve and didn't care. Small ceremony. Garden venue. 40 people. Not 200. We didn't need 200. We needed the people who mattered. Mom wore a blue dress this time. Also from the thrift store. $7 for this one. She told me the price because she tells me the price of everything. It's not bragging. It's accounting. Also beautiful. Constance wore white. Yeah. She wore white to her son's wedding. Not ivory. Not cream. Not champagne or eggshell or any of those fancy words for almost white. White. Bright, look at me, center of attention white. Like snow. Like a surrender flag she was waving for the wrong side. Like a woman who wanted everyone to know she was still the most important person in her son's life. My sister saw it first. She grabbed my arm in the dressing room. Tell me that woman is not wearing white. She is. At your wedding? At my wedding. My sister's jaw tightened. I'm going to say something. No, you're not. Watch me. Elena. No. She didn't say anything, but she muttered in the bathroom for a solid 10 minutes. I could hear her through the door. I didn't say anything. Mom didn't say anything. We just looked at each other across the aisle and said everything without opening our mouths. That's the thing about women who've survived hard things together. They don't need words. They just need a look. After the wedding, Constance got creative. She couldn't stop the marriage, so she decided to manage it. She called David every day. She showed up unannounced on Sundays. She rearranged my kitchen once while I was at work. Moved everything. The mugs went from the shelf by the coffee maker to the cabinet above the stove. The spices went from the counter to a drawer I never open. She put the plates where the bowls were, and the bowls where the plates were. Like she was solving a puzzle that wasn't broken. Told David it was more efficient this way. I came home and couldn't find my own spatula. It was in a drawer with the aluminum foil. I stood in my own kitchen opening drawers like a stranger in someone else's house. And I realized that was the point. She wanted me to feel like a guest in my own home. The same way she made me feel like a guest at every dinner. Every brunch. Every holiday where she sat me next to the kids and pretended there wasn't room. She commented on what I cooked. That's a lot of seasoning, dear. She said it while poking at the rice with her fork like it was evidence at a crime scene. She said it in front of David, who loved my cooking, who asked for seconds every night, who once ate an entire pot of my black beans standing over the stove with a wooden spoon. But sure, Constance. Too much seasoning. She commented on what I wore. Is that new? It looks new. I hope you didn't spend too much. As if my spending was her business. As if a woman who stole from a children's charity had any right to comment on anyone's budget. But I didn't know that yet. That came later. She commented on how I kept the house. There's dust on that shelf. You'd think with your background, cleaning would come naturally. She said that one while running her finger across my bookshelf. She actually ran her finger across my bookshelf. Like she was inspecting a hotel room. Like she was grading me on a test I didn't sign up for. I looked at her finger. Then I looked at her face. And I smiled. Because what else do? You smile. You swallow the thing you want to say. You remind yourself that this is David's mother. And you go to the bathroom and grip the sink until your knuckles turn white. Always with a smile. Always with dear. Always with the knife wrapped in silk. Every insult delivered in a tone so sweet that if you complained, you'd sound crazy. That was her gift. Making cruelty sound polite. Making contempt sound like concern. Making you doubt whether you'd actually been hurt or just imagined it. But you didn't imagine it. Your hands on the sink told you that. Your eyes in the mirror told you that. But the bookkeeper thing, that was her masterpiece. The family foundation was Constance's pride. She'd started it 20 years ago. It funded scholarships for underprivileged kids. Or so she said. She chaired the board. She hosted the galas. She gave the speeches about lifting people up from difficult circumstances. The irony of that still makes me want to scream. One day, about 18 months before the gala, Constance announced at dinner that the foundation needed a new bookkeeper. The old one had retired. She looked at me. Valentina could do it, she said. David lit up. That's a great idea, Mom. Val has an accounting degree. Does she? Constance said it like she'd forgotten. She hadn't forgotten. She knew exactly what she was doing. She wanted to give me a job that sounded important but was actually just data entry. Busy work. The kind of work you give an intern you don't respect but can't fire. She wanted me to sit in a back room somewhere, sorting receipts into folders and feeling grateful that the great Constance had found a use for me. She wanted me to be a prop, part of her story, the one she told at dinner parties about how charitable she was. Not just with money. With people. We even put David's wife to work. We're very inclusive. I can hear her saying it. The emphasis on inclusive, the way she'd tilt her head when she said it. Like she deserved a medal for letting me touch her files. But here's the thing Constance didn't account for. I'm actually good at my job. Like really good. I didn't just enter the numbers. I read them. I followed them. I tracked them the way my mother tracked every single dollar across 23 years of notebooks. The foundation's records were a mess when I started. Not a suspicious mess, just a lazy mess. The kind of mess you get when no one's been paying attention for a very long time. Receipts filed in the wrong folders. Spreadsheets that hadn't been updated in months. Bank statements stuffed into drawers like junk mail. I organized everything first. That took about 3 months. Then I started reconciling. That's when I found it. The first one. A charge for $4,000 to a vendor called Greenleaf Services. I looked up the vendor. No website. No phone number. No address. No listing in any business directory in the state. I searched for it 3 times. Different search engines. Different databases. Nothing. Just a name that existed only on paper. Only in the foundation's records. Only as a destination for $4,000 that went somewhere and never came back. I felt my stomach drop. The way it does when you open a drawer and find something you weren't supposed to find. I almost missed it. It was buried in a quarter that had over 200 transactions. But Mom's voice was in my head. Always count twice. So I counted twice, and the numbers didn't match. I didn't say anything. Not yet. I just wrote it down. In a notebook. A spiral notebook. Blue cover. Some things are inherited. I went back further. The next quarter. The quarter before that. Then the whole year. Then 2 years. Then 5. Then 8. The pattern was there once you knew what to look for. Small amounts at first. 2,000 here. 3,000 there. Always to vendors that didn't exist. Always routed through accounts that had nothing to do with the foundation's mission. The amounts got bigger over time. 4,000. 6,000. 8,000 in a single transfer. Like she was testing how much she could take before someone noticed. Like putting your toe in a pool. Then your foot. Then your whole leg. And when nobody says anything, you jump in. The vendor names were creative. Greenleaf Services. Meridian Consulting Group. Apex Community Partners. They sounded real. They sounded like the kind of companies a foundation would hire. But they were ghosts. Empty names on empty invoices leading to accounts that led to Constance. Every single one. Nobody noticed. Because nobody was looking. Because Constance was the chair. Because she hosted the galas. Because she gave the speeches about giving back. Because she was the woman who started the whole thing. And who audits the saint? Nobody. Until the cleaning lady's daughter starts reading the books. I kept going. I couldn't stop. Once you see a pattern, you can't unsee it. It's like one of those pictures where the image is hidden inside the dots. Once your eyes adjust, it's all you see. 8 years of records. Every receipt. Every bank statement. Every vendor payment. Every deposit. Every withdrawal. I cross-referenced. I verified. I stayed up past midnight more times than I can count. Sitting at my kitchen table with a laptop and a calculator and a cup of coffee that went cold hours ago. David would come downstairs in his pajamas. Come to bed, Val. In a minute. It was never a minute. It was always 2 more hours. Because every time I thought I'd found the end of it, there was another thread. Another ghost vendor. Another transfer to another account that led back to the same place. I built a spreadsheet that was 47 pages long. I printed it at a copy shop on a Saturday morning. The kid behind the counter looked at it and said, "What is all this?" "Math homework," I said. He didn't ask again. And it all pointed to the same place. 3 personal accounts. All connected to Constance. All in her name. Not even hidden that well. just hidden well enough for people who weren't looking. $340,000. I'll say that number again because it deserves to be heard. $340,000. That's $172,000 scholarships. That's kids who could have gone to college but didn't because the money was paying for silver dresses and string quartets. Redirected over 8 years. From a foundation that was supposed to help underprivileged kids. By a woman who made fun of me for growing up underprivileged. Think about that. Really think about it. She looked down on me for growing up poor. And she was the reason some kids stayed poor. I sat at my kitchen table and stared at the numbers. My kitchen table. Not hers. The one that doesn't wobble but somehow still reminds me of Mom's. I was furious, but not surprised. I've learned that people who look down on the poor are often the ones stealing from them. It's not a coincidence. It's a system. You convince everyone you're generous and good. Then you take while nobody's watching. And if anyone questions it, you call them ungrateful. Or ethnic. Or staff. I knew my spreadsheet wasn't enough. I needed a professional, someone who could verify what I'd found and put it in a format that a board would take seriously. So I hired a forensic accountant. Her name was Diane. She worked out of a small office above a dry cleaner in the next town over. She was 62 years old. She wore reading glasses on a beaded chain and she drank coffee that could strip paint. Her office smelled like old paper and determination. She'd been doing this work for 30 years. She'd testified in court 14 times. 14 for 14. She had never been wrong. She was the best in the county. I paid her with my own savings. $4,200. I'd been saving that money for a vacation. David and I had talked about going somewhere warm. A beach. A place where nobody corrected your grammar or asked about your papers. Instead, I gave that money to Diane. $4,200. The same amount as that first suspicious charge. I liked the symmetry. Mom would have liked it too. She always said the numbers have a sense of humor if you pay attention. Diane took 3 months. She went through everything I'd found and then went further. She pulled bank records. She traced the vendor names. She followed the money like a bloodhound follows a scent through a swamp. When she was done, she handed me a report. 47 pages. Bound. Professional. With charts and timelines and account numbers and a conclusion that was 3 sentences long. I won't quote it exactly, but it basically said, someone had been stealing. Steadily. Strategically. And her name was on every transfer. I drove home with that report on the passenger seat. I kept looking at it at red lights. Like it might open itself. Like it might change its mind. When I got home, I put it in the back of my closet, behind the box of Mom's notebooks. And I didn't touch it for 2 weeks. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about revenge. Or justice. Or whatever you want to call it. The moment you have the power to change everything, you're terrified. Not of what will happen, of what won't. What if nobody believes me? What if they say I'm wrong? What if they say I faked it? What if they say, well, what do you expect from a cleaning lady's daughter? That's what Constance would say. I knew it. She'd find a way to make it about me. About where I came from. About what I am. She'd turn the evidence into a character trial. And she'd win. Because she always wins. Because she has a country club membership and a last name that means something in this town. And I have a mother who counts cash on a folding table. I didn't sleep much those 2 weeks. David noticed. You okay? He asked one night. Fine, I said. Bad dream. He kissed my forehead and went back to sleep. I stared at the ceiling and thought about 47 pages in the back of my closet. Then the invitation came. Constance's 60th birthday gala. Country club. 200 guests. Plated dinner. A string quartet, of course. Because Constance doesn't have a party. She has an event. And every event needs an audience. That's when I knew. Not just what to do, but when to do it. Constance wanted an audience for my humiliation. Fine. I'd give her an audience for something else entirely. I took the report out of the closet. I put it in a manila envelope. I put the manila envelope in my purse. And I picked out a dress. My sister's dress, actually. A black one. Simple. The kind of dress that doesn't try too hard. The kind that says, I'm not here to impress you. I'm here to outlast you. The night of the gala, I got ready slowly. I did my makeup in the bathroom mirror. Mascara first. Then a lipstick I'd borrowed from Mom. She didn't know why I'd asked for it. You never wear red, she said. Tonight I do. I looked at myself in that bathroom mirror. I barely recognized myself. Not because of the makeup, because of the look in my eyes. It was a look I'd seen before. On Mom. The morning she went to the landlord's office to dispute a charge she knew was wrong. The morning she walked in with her notebook, her blue notebook, and walked out with a refund. That look, the look of a woman who has done the math and knows she's right. I thought about all the bathrooms I'd sat in as a kid. Other people's bathrooms, with other people's soap and other people's towels. I thought about Mom on her knees, scrubbing tiles while I did long division on the edge of a bathtub. I thought about Constance calling me staff. I thought about the uniform I didn't know was coming, but somehow always expected. Because women like Constance always have one more thing. One more way to remind you where you started. As if where you started is where you belong. I opened my purse, checked for the envelope. Still there. 47 pages that would change everything. David drove us to the country club. He looked handsome. He always looks handsome. He's the kind of man who doesn't know he's good looking, which is the best kind. You seem quiet, he said in the car. Just thinking. About what? Numbers. He laughed. You and your numbers. He didn't know. He had no idea what was in my purse. He had no idea what his mother had planned. He was just a man driving to his mother's birthday party. Thinking about cake, probably. We walked in. The country club was lit up like a movie set. Chandeliers. White tablecloths. Flower arrangements taller than me. And people. So many people. All of them in expensive clothes. All of them holding champagne. All of them part of Constance's world. A world I was never invited into. Just brought along like a +1 to my own humiliation. Constance found us immediately. She was wearing a silver dress. Her hair was perfect. Her jewelry was louder than the string quartet. She hugged David. Long hug. The kind of hug that's designed to exclude the person standing next to him. Then she turned to me. Valentina, you came. Like it was optional. Like she'd hoped I wouldn't. Happy birthday, Constance. She smiled. I have something for you, she said. She said it the way a cat looks at a bird through a window. You know what's coming. The bird doesn't, but I did. I wasn't a bird tonight. She brought out the gift bag, pink tissue paper, silver handles. You already know this part. She handed it to me. I opened it. The uniform, the name tag, staff, 200 people watching. The silence. Her smile, and then my purse, my envelope, my 47 pages. Let me tell you what happened next. Because the opening is the easy part. The aftermath is where the real story lives. Park took the envelope from Constance's hands. She hadn't opened it. She was still frozen, holding it like a grenade with the pin already pulled. Park opened it. He put on his reading glasses, the wire-rimmed ones he wears to board meetings. I've seen those glasses before. He wears them when he's serious. He read the first page. Then the second. Then he flipped ahead. The way you do when you realize a document isn't what you expected and might be worse than you imagined. The room was dead, silent. 200 people holding champagne they'd forgotten to drink. Park looked up. He didn't look at me. He didn't look at the crowd. He looked at Constance. And his face said everything his mouth hadn't yet. Constance, he said. Just her name. But the way he said it wasn't how a friend says a name. It was how a doctor says a name before delivering bad news. What is this, Constance? She was looking at me still. Like I might take it back. Like I might say, just kidding. Like this was another gift bag she could fold up and throw away. It's a misunderstanding, she said. She said it fast. Too fast. The speed of a lie that hasn't been rehearsed. Let me explain. $340,000, doctor. Park said. He didn't say it loudly. He didn't need to. In a room that quiet, a whisper carries like a shout. Over 8 years, he turned a page. To 3 personal accounts, he turned another. All connected to you. Constance's smile was completely gone now, replaced by something I'd never seen on her face before. Fear. Real fear. Not the polished fear of a woman worried about a bad seating chart. The raw, animal fear of someone who's been caught. That report is fabricated, she said. She looked at me. She made it up. She's trying to destroy me. I said nothing. I didn't need to. The report spoke for itself. 47 pages don't lie. Spreadsheets don't have agendas. Numbers don't hold grudges. They just tell the truth, even when nobody wants to hear it. This was prepared by a certified forensic accountant, Dr. Park said. He was reading the cover page. Licensed in this state. Bonded and insured. He looked at me. You commissioned this? I did. When? 4 months ago. Why? Because I found a discrepancy and I wanted to be sure. You could have come to the board. With all due respect, Dr. Park, the board chair was the problem. The room reacted to that. Not loudly. Just a collective inhale. The sound of 200 people recalibrating everything they thought they knew. Constance turned to the crowd. She was in full damage control now. This is a personal attack, she said. My daughter-in-law has always resented me. She comes from a very different background. She doesn't understand how foundations work. There it was. Different background. The silk around the knife. But this time, it didn't cut me. Because I wasn't the one bleeding. I understand foundations fine, I said. I have a degree in accounting. I've spent 18 months reviewing every transaction. And the numbers don't care about my background, Constance. Someone at table 6 clapped. Just once. A single clap that echoed off the walls of the country club. Then someone else. Then a few more. Constance looked at them like they betrayed her. And in a way they had, because the thing about an audience is it only stays loyal as long as you control the story. And Constance had just lost the story. Completely. Park closed the report. He tucked it under his arm. He pulled out his phone. I'm calling an emergency board meeting, he said. Tomorrow morning. Nina. M. He looked at Constance. You should bring a lawyer. Constance's mouth opened. Nothing came out. For the first time in the 3 years I'd known her, Constance had nothing to say. No correction. No comment. No carefully wrapped insult. Just silence. The band started playing again. Someone had told them to. Probably the event coordinator. The one with the clipboard and the earpiece who had definitely not planned for a forensic accounting reveal between the appetizers and the entree. Like music could smooth over what had just happened. It couldn't. But they played anyway. People started whispering. The way people whisper when they've seen something they'll talk about for years. Not loudly. Not cruelly. Just the hum of 200 people rewriting everything they thought they knew about a woman they'd been toasting 5 minutes ago. Some people left. Not many. But a few. The ones who were close to Constance. The ones who'd laughed at the uniform joke. They gathered their coats and their purses and slipped out the side door. Like they could outrun what they'd witnessed. They couldn't. Nobody could. Something soft played on. Something classical. Something that sounded like the end of a very long story. David found me outside. I was standing on the patio. The night air was cool. I could hear the fountain in the country club garden. I could hear my own breathing. Val. I turned around. His face was complicated. A dozen emotions fighting for the same space. You knew? He said. I found out 18 months ago. And you didn't tell me? I didn't tell anyone. Why? I looked at him. Because your mother has spent 3 years telling everyone I'm nobody. If I'd accused her without proof, airtight, professional 47-page proof, who would they have believed? He didn't answer. He didn't need to. We both knew. They would have believed Constance. Because Constance has the name, the club membership, the silver dress, the correct grammar, and I'm just the girl with the practical shoes. David sat down on the patio bench. He put his head in his hands. 340,000, he said. From a charity for kids. Yes. My mother. Yes. He was quiet for a long time. The fountain bubbled. The music drifted from inside. Somewhere in there, 200 people were trying to eat crab cakes like the world hadn't just shifted. I'm sorry, David said. For what? For everything she's done to you. For the comments. The questions. The damn uniform. His voice cracked on that last word. I should have stopped her. You couldn't have. I should have tried harder. David. He looked up. I didn't need you to stop her. I needed to stop her myself. He stared at me. And I think he understood something he'd been missing for 3 years. I was never the victim in this story. I was the one taking notes. The board met the next morning. Nina M. Park presided. I wasn't in the room. I didn't need to be. The report was there. All 47 pages. The meeting lasted 4 hours. By noon, Constance had been removed as chair of the foundation. By 3 p.m., the board had voted to conduct a full external audit. By the end of the week, legal counsel had been retained. Constance didn't fight it. Not really. Her lawyer made some noise about procedural issues, about how the review wasn't authorized, about how I'd accessed records without proper clearance. But the thing is, I was the bookkeeper. She gave me the access. She handed me the keys and told me to file things. She just never expected me to read what I filed. That was her mistake. Not the stealing. That was her crime. Her mistake was underestimating me. Her mistake was thinking that the cleaning lady's daughter would be grateful for the work and never look too closely. I think she knew. When the numbers are that clear, there's nothing to fight. You can argue with opinions. You can't argue with a spreadsheet. Especially one that's been verified by a woman named Diane who's 14 for 14 in court. She tried, of course. She called David 17 times that first day. He answered twice. Both conversations were short. She told him I was vindictive. She told him I'd manipulated the numbers. She told him I was trying to destroy the family. David said, "Mom, did you take the money?" She didn't answer. That was her answer. The town found out, obviously. 200 people at a gala is not a secret. It's a broadcast. By Monday morning, the story had made its way through every coffee shop and hair salon in a 15-mile radius. Constance stopped going to the country club. She stopped hosting brunches. She stopped correcting anyone's grammar. Hard to correct someone's grammar when your own sentence is no comment. The foundation survived. That was the most important part. The scholarships continued. The program stayed funded. Park made sure of that. He brought in a new chair. He brought in new accountants. He built a system with oversight and transparency and all the things that should have been there from the beginning. He asked me to stay on as the bookkeeper. Not as an insult this time. As a real offer. You found what nobody else could find. He said, "We need you." I said yes. Mom found out on a Tuesday. I drove to her house and told her the whole story. She listened the way she always does. Quietly, hands in her lap, eyes on mine. When I finished, she didn't say anything for a long time. Then she said, "She gave you a cleaning uniform?" "Yes, Mom." "In front of everyone?" 200 people. Mom nodded. Slowly. The nod of a woman who has been underestimated her entire life. "And then you gave her the report?" "Yes." She smiled. Not a big smile. A small one. The smile of a woman who counts every dollar twice and raised a daughter who does the same. "Good," she said. That was it. Good. One word. But from my mother, one word is everything. She paused. Then she said something I'll never forget. "You know why I taught you to count money? Because numbers matter." "No." She leaned forward. "Because when you know the numbers, nobody can lie to you. Not the client who says she paid you. Not the landlord who says you owe more. Not the woman in the silver dress who thinks you're too stupid to read a bank statement. Mom sat back. I cleaned their houses, mija. But I always knew exactly what I was worth. And so do you." I cried then, right there in Mom's kitchen. At the table with the wobbly leg and the folded napkin. The same table where she taught me to sort bills by denomination. The same table where I did my homework when there was no rich family's kitchen to sit in. The same table where she counted her money every Friday for 23 years. A whole life lived at one kitchen table. A whole life that led to this moment. Her daughter sitting across from her, telling her the story of how she used everything she was taught to do the right thing. Mom didn't cry. She never cries in front of me, but her eyes were bright. And she held my hand a little tighter than usual. Because some things circle back around. Like kitchen tables, like notebooks, like the number 2, which is always the right amount of times to count, like daughters who learn to count because their mothers showed them how. The uniform, the gray one, the one that said staff. I still have it. I didn't throw it away. I didn't burn it. I didn't donate it. I framed it. Yeah. I put it in a shadow box with a nice wooden frame. And I hung it in my home office, right above the desk where I do the foundation's books. David asked me about it once. "Doesn't that bother you?" "No." "Why not?" because it reminds me where I started. And where she ended up, he didn't ask again. Some things explain themselves if you let them. Here's what I want you to know. This isn't a revenge story. I know it sounds like one, but it's not. Revenge is about anger. This was about accuracy. I didn't go after Constance because she hurt me. I went after the numbers because they were wrong. The hurt was real. 3 years of it. Every comment, every correction, every time she called me dear, like it was a demotion. But I didn't expose her because of dear. I exposed her because $340,000 was missing from a charity that helps kids. Kids like me. Kids who sit on kitchen floors and do homework on other people's countertops. Kids whose moms clean houses so they don't have to. That money was theirs, not Constance's. And someone had to say so. I'm glad it was me. Constance eventually settled with the foundation. Her lawyer called it a voluntary restitution agreement, which is a fancy way of saying she paid back the money before they pressed charges. She repaid most of it. Not all. She couldn't. It turns out keeping up appearances is expensive. The country club membership, the silver dresses, the galas with string quartets, the columns on the house that look like they belong on a courthouse. All that costs money. Money she was stealing from children's scholarships to maintain the illusion that she was the kind of woman who gives to charity. She stole from poor kids to look like she helped poor kids. Let that sink in for a moment. The woman who called me staff was funding her lifestyle with money meant for kids who grew up just like me. Kids on kitchen floors. Kids with moms who count cash on folding tables. The irony is so thick you could clean a floor with it. And believe me, I know how to clean a floor. She doesn't speak to me anymore. I know. Devastating. What will I do without being called ethnic at Thanksgiving? She barely speaks to David. That's the part that's actually sad. He didn't do anything wrong. He just married a woman his mother didn't approve of. And that woman turned out to be the one person paying attention. David's okay, though. He chose me. Not in a dramatic movie moment kind of way. Not with a speech or a grand gesture. He just kept showing up. Every morning, every night, sitting next to me at the same kitchen table, asking about my day, bringing me coffee that's too hot because he always forgets to let it cool. That's how you choose someone. Not once. Every day. He told me something last month. We were doing dishes. He washes. I dry. We've always done it that way. I'm proud of you, he said. He was scrubbing a pot. Not looking at me. For what? I asked. For being braver than me. I didn't argue with him. Because he was right. Not in a mean way. In the way that matters. I was brave because I had to be. Because nobody was going to fight for the cleaning lady's daughter except the cleaning lady's daughter. And the cleaning lady herself, of course, who fought every single day with a bucket and a bus pass and 46 blue notebooks full of proof that every dollar mattered, that every number had a name, that every penny someone tried to shortchange her was a penny she remembered. I didn't learn courage in a classroom. I learned it watching my mother count money at a folding table in an apartment where the heat didn't work half the winter. That's courage. The quiet kind. The kind that doesn't give speeches. It just shows up on Monday morning and does the work all over again. The foundation is doing well now. Better than before, actually. Better than it ever was under Constance. Which tells you something. Last year, we funded 27 scholarships. The year before that, 19. We're growing. One of those scholarship kids wrote me a letter last month. She's a sophomore in college now. First in her family. Her mom cleans offices at night. She wrote, "Thank you for making sure the money got to me." I put that letter in my desk drawer, right next to Mom's first spiral notebook. The blue one. The one with the first entry she ever made. 23 years of numbers in one drawer. A whole life counted. Because when the money goes where it's supposed to go, it goes further. Funny how that works? Take away the thief and suddenly there's enough for everyone. Imagine that. Park told me something at the last board meeting. You know what Constance's biggest mistake was? Stealing from the foundation? No. Giving you the keys to it. He smiled. I smiled back. Because he was right. Constance handed me the books as an insult. She handed me a mop and expected me to clean. But I read the stains instead. And they told a story she never wanted anyone to hear. Mom still cleans houses. I've offered to help her stop. More than once. More than a dozen times, honestly, I've offered to pay her bills. I've offered to set up a savings plan. I've offered to do the math and show her she doesn't need to. She won't hear it. I like my clients, she says. They need me. And my knees still work. She's 71. Her knees barely work. I've seen her wince getting out of her car. I've seen her rub them when she thinks nobody's looking. But she shows up. Every week, Monday through Saturday. Same route she's had for years. Same houses. Same families who leave a key under the mat because they trust her with everything they own. Same system she taught me when I was barely tall enough to see over the counter. Top to bottom. Left to right. Never backtrack. Forward. Always forward. I go see her on Sundays. We sit on her porch. The one with the rocking chairs that don't quite match. One's wood. One's wicker. They've been there since I was small. We drink coffee. We don't say much. We don't need to. Last Sunday, she looked at me and said, "You turned out okay." From my mother, that's the equivalent of a standing ovation. I told her about the uniform, how I framed it. She laughed. Really laughed. The kind of laugh that comes from your stomach and shakes your shoulders and makes your eyes water. You framed a cleaning uniform? I framed a cleaning uniform. Mija, you are something else. I learned from the best. She waved her hand at me. The way she does when she's pretending she's not emotional. Then she got quiet. She rocked in her chair. The wicker one. It creaked with every push. "You know what I'm most proud of?" she asked. "What?" "That you counted twice." I reached over and held her hand. Small hand. Rough from decades of work. Stronger than any hand at any country club in any town in this country. That's my story. The daughter of a cleaning lady who was handed a mop and used it to sweep a floor clean. Not the kind of floor you walk on. The kind underneath a $340,000 lie. I don't know what happens next. Maybe Constance finds a way to rebuild. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe one day, years from now, she'll understand that the girl she humiliated was the only one telling the truth. Or maybe she won't. Some people never learn the lessons their own numbers teach them. I don't need to know. I know who I am. I'm the daughter of Rosa. The girl from the kitchen floor. The bookkeeper who was supposed to be grateful and turned out to be thorough. I know what I'm worth. And I know that if you count twice, the numbers will always tell the truth. Even when people won't. So if you're sitting somewhere right now feeling like you don't belong, like someone's handed you a uniform and told you to wear it, like the room is full of people who think they're better than you, open the books, read the numbers, count twice. Because the girl who grew up on kitchen floors just rewrote the ledger. And the woman in the silver dress? The one with the columns and the country club and the perfect grammar? She's the one who can't balance her accounts. She's the one who got audited. She's the one who lost her chair, her reputation, her son's respect. All because she thought the cleaning lady's daughter couldn't read a spreadsheet. Turns out she could. She read it twice, in fact. Mom's porch light is on. It's always on. She leaves it on for me even when she knows I'm not coming. Just in case, she says. Come sit with me again sometime. I'll leave the porch light on.